Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order and acknowledge that we are in Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Innu, and Dakota peoples, and in the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Drinking water comes from the Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 3 territory. On the panel with me this morning is Ms. Diane Knight and Mr. Richard Whitbread. Our administrative person today is Ms. Crystal Harland, and our assessor is Mr. Matthew Barakas. My name is Bill Moretsky. I will be also on the panel and chairing this meeting. We will be hearing applications for revision of the assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application, and we will limit discussion to those matters. The statements that are made at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by Council and is independent of it and the City Administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that would be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the Board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to the Court of King's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the Board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the points of appeal with your property to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony, followed by questions that the applicant may have, and then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all of the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all the applications have been heard, and the Board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You will receive the Board's decision by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the record. We will hear items 1 and 2 on our docket today. Ms. Harlan, please affirm the assessor's and the applicant's testimony.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Mr. Assessor, would you please state your full name?
Matthew Barakas.
Thank you. Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. Madam Applicant, would you please state your full name?
Vera Cates.
Thank you. Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, our first item on the docket today is item number 1, 3389 Pembina Highway. This is an application for revision of the assessed value. And also on the table of contents, it notes that there's an appeal for classification. Is that correct, Ms. Cates?
It should only be value.
Okay, so let's have it on the record then that there is no appeal on classification for this property, just the assessed value.
Sorry, Mr. Chair. I'll send Ms. Cates a form and we'll get that taken care of.
Okay. Any preliminary issues on these properties from either party?
Not for this one.
Okay. Then, Mr. Barakas, you can begin your presentation, please.
All right. Thank you very much. File 24-563. Roll number 0303179000003389 Pembina Highway. Built in 2012. Manitoba Housing and Renewal Corporation is the owner of the property. 8 indoor, 48 outdoor parking on record. Follow me over to page 3. You can see the aerial of the property. So it's housing, but it's newer. You can tell from the outside that it's not one of the more dated properties we typically see from this applicant. It's located just south of the perimeter, St. Norbert, between Grandmont and the St. Norbert Community Center. You can see the location on the map. They're on page 3. Page 4, just further description of the property. So there's 37 units geared to low and medium income households. And there's just more information there. I won't read out all. I can go through that as the breakdown minus the photograph. So page 5 is our overall workup of the 37 units, 6 1-bedroom, 24 2-bedroom, and 7 3-bedroom. Average monthly rent, $14.5235. Just glancing ahead, it looks like this is a cap rate difference between the city and the applicant. So we're at a 4.75 cap rate. That comes up with a value of $7,455,000 or $201.46 a unit as of April 1st, 2023. Got our comps on page 6, but because unless anything's changed, we agree on the rent. I'm not going to extend my presentation unnecessarily. We got CMHC rents, table rents to support our model rent as well. And on page 7. On page 8, we have a slide from the PowerPoint that was found online from the Winnipeg Regional Real Estate Board 2022 Market Insights multifamily top sale transaction slide. There's 3 sales here: Illumin Urban Square and 30 University Crescent, ranging from $283 per unit to $265 per unit. Lumen at South Point is, you can see it, it's an attached townhouse. It's like residential homes attached. So I would not consider that one at all applicable. Urban Square on Good and University, UC 30 on 30 University Street are more typical apartments, and they're like around $265 a unit. So we got our overall cap rate chart on page 9, and I know familiar faces have seen many times. We're 4.75. That's the 20th percentile. We do have caps that are lower, but I believe the cap rate's appropriate for this. Why do I say that? Page 10. Again, I'm sure everyone's seen this and heard this 100 times. 2390 McPhillips, 4.7 on the cap, but most notably 215,556 on a per suite basis. That's sold in October of 2020. So we're about 2.5 years beyond that, looking at our reference date. And the overall valuation is 201 per suite. So while we may not agree on the cap rate, our overall resulting assessment, which is what we're reviewing here, is about 15 grand lower, 2.5 years into an increasing real estate market. So I don't think we're overshooting it, keeping in mind that it is housing. So the finishes are a bit basic, but not at all rough, which you'll see in the pictures. Beginning on page 14, So you can see the outside. And then I got a play structure on page 16 and balconies and then I think from 18 onwards is interior. So I mean, they're by no means luxury, but they're not beat or they're just pretty utilitarian. And at 201 per unit compared to the 215, 2.5 years preceding our reference date, I think it makes sense to say no, it's a good neighborhood. That's my evidence. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Cates, do you have any question on the assessor's presentation?
Yes, thank you. So on your income value summary on page 5, does the model account for the property being subsidized housing, or is it valued as if it was a market apartment?
They're all valued as market apartments, self-imposed limitations are not something that we look at. It would be the same as if I had an apartment, filled it with my buddies, and then only charged them $300, and then came to the city and said, "Oh, the assessment should be lower." So we don't consider that. No.
Okay. And the cap rate of 4.75% would be your 20th percentile, is that correct?
That is correct.
And in regard to your cap rate table on page 9, for the ranges 4.75 to 5.45, do you know what the inputs would be to achieve those ranges, such as the number of sales, location, type, etc.?
I do not. That would be a modeling question. So I don't have the answer, unfortunately.
Okay. And then page 10 for your cap rate evidence, where you're talking about McPhillips and like price per unit and stuff like that. That's a market apartment. None of those would be social housing. Is that correct?
Yeah, none of these are social housing. That's correct.
Okay. I believe that would conclude my questions for this property. Thank you.
Ms. Knight, any questions for the assessor? Ms. Knight?
Just one in regards to the pictures on page 18 and 21. Is this a wheelchair unit? Because under the sinks in both places, it's got room.
Yeah, you know what? It does actually look that way. And when I didn't put this brief together, but like looking at page 21 as well, you can see how the island is
Yeah,
really low.
yeah,
So that does track with what you
Okay.
observe.
okay,
It's just to show the overall level of finish.
yeah. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Whitbread, any questions?
Yeah, just one thing. I think on the wheelchair, this building appears to have won an Access Award. Ms. Knight, in response to your question, there's a bunch of information on page 4. So it appears that it is accessible. Certainly better than anything I've seen out there. Can you talk to that, Mr. Baracus, in terms of the age of the residents? Do you have any idea? Is this an elderly person's building, or is it a family building and bungalows?
So I'm reading page 4 here. There's nominated for Access Award, physical access. I could check the notes quick. Again, I'm just jumping in on this one. It doesn't like specifically say that it's all physical, like it's completely geared to that use. But I'm gonna see whoever put it on would have made a note. I apologize. So let's see what was put into the system when whoever put it on did so.
You
They
haven't been, have you been to the facility?
I have not been to this facility, no.
Maybe you could comment that when we look at the photos and we think about social housing in Winnipeg, this doesn't seem to fit the profile of social housing that we might have in other areas of the city. Would you agree with that?
Well, I mean, it is newer.
Yeah,
It's a lot of the older ones are, I mean, it is utilitarian in a way, but it is newer utilitarian. I mean, it does look good, show well in the photos, and just on an overall price per unit basis, it makes sense that we're a bit lower than the 215.
but it is quite a bit higher than most of the social housing units that we would see at 201.
Right, most social housing is, it's from the 70s. It's maybe like a concrete high rise on Balmoral or downtown Winnipeg. So, like, if you wanted to, like, it doesn't look like, because there's no like size, doesn't appear like there's a size issue with the units, that I really don't see really a need for any sort of adjustment cap wise on this one, for that reason.
Well, thank you. That was going to be my next question. If that
Yeah.
was a contributor to your model's cap rate at 4.75. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't have any other questions.
Thank you. If you can go to page 3, I just wanted to get a better idea of scope of this complex here. So on the photo, you have kind of the apartment unit in the top right corner, correct? Apartment building.
Yes.
And then on the left side, there's this kind of like row housing, I guess you would call it.
Yeah, it looks like they're like attached one-story row house units.
So are those higher rents than the building, than the main building?
I'm not sure about that. We just have an overall market rent applied to it. And I believe, unless I'm missing something, that we have, we're the same as the applicant.
No, I realize that. Yeah, I just wanted to get a better feel for the whole project
Yeah.
when I'm considering the other factor, the cap rate. Okay, so you decided to go to the 20th percentile. You could have gone between 4.75 and 5.45, correct?
Well, I mean, the cap rate's assigned by the model based on age, area, and size. So this 4.7 cap is applied by the model. I think mainly based on the size and age. It's newer, and it's relatively newer, and the size of it kind of commands an institutional investor. So there's not going to be that additional demand that like a real small apartment would have, which could push the cap below 20th percentile. So overall, at 201, it makes sense that it's a bit below 2390 McPhillips, but not so far that it ignores what's seen in the pictures in the brief.
Okay, I do not have any further questions. Ms. Cates, you can begin your presentation, please.
Thank you. So if you turn to page 2 of our brief, we have a summary of some of the facts of the property, along with our requested assessment of $6,745,000. On page 6, we have some property maps, and then some exterior photos on page 7. Property description on page 8. So the property has a mix of apartment style and bungalow style layout options. And the property was developed as a partnership between 1010 Sinclair and Manitoba Housing, with the goal of providing subsidized housing to individuals with disabilities. So based on this, it seems that it would be all units that are going to be covered by those type of layouts. On page 13, we have our income approach overview. So when we're looking at the social housing properties for income, we would compare with CMHC. Typically for social housing, we would expect the rents to be at least 20% below the CMHC averages. But considering that this is a newer build, the rents were kind of right at those CMHC levels. So considering the age, we didn't do any further adjustment to the rents. We've applied a market vacancy of 3.1%, and then expenses at 43.3% of EGI seemed within range as well. So on page 14, we have our overview for cap rates for social housing. Now, this property is going to be newer, so it's not going to have all the deferred maintenance that typically the social housing properties would have. But what we know is that these subsidized housing properties do tend to deteriorate at a faster rate over time, just because over time, like having the rents not meeting the level of expenses, that deferred maintenance would build up. So while the condition as it stands would be good based on the age, we would expect that it would deteriorate at a faster rate and therefore should be viewed differently than a pure market apartment. On page 18, we have our cap rate overview. So we would start at a base cap rate of 5%. That would be our the floor for our cap rate for newer builds, so 2005 plus. And then we are applying a slight adjustment to this property. So we're at 5.25%. So the reason behind the adjustment would be both that it is social housing, but also that when we look at these units, they weren't built to market standards. They were built specifically to house individuals with physical disabilities. So the layouts all accommodate that. So if we're looking at it from a market perspective, if it was just advertised generally, there would need to be some type of adjustments to the units to kind of convert them back to that market standard. And there would be a cost associated with that. So based on those two factors, we feel that a slight adjustment to the cap rate at 5.25% is within reason. So we have our valuation on page 20. So we could see that with an NOI of $354,104 with a 5.25 cap indicates a value of $6,745,000 rounded. And for these properties, making comparisons on a per unit basis loses its accuracy, because when you're comparing it to market apartments, especially in the assessor's brief with those sale comparables that had just sold recently, they're not built to the same standard. Social housing is known to have more basic quality finishes because their goal is to meet housing and security requirements. It's not to have luxurious finishes. So trying to make those comparisons on a per unit basis just isn't really going to be accurate for a property like this. And when we look at what the brokers are saying as well, which we've submitted that with our cap rate study, CBRE is a bit more optimistic, but for the most part, they're saying somewhere between 5 to 6, 5 to 5.75. So we feel that this property should be within that range as well. And then we have our appendix starting on page 22. And we just have more background for our social housing adjustments in there. And that would conclude my presentation on this property. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Barakis, do you have any questions on the applicant's presentation?
But yes, excuse me, have you inspected the property?
I did not inspect the property.
So, okay. I guess with what I'm wondering is if the units in the more typical apartment building with the underground garage, are those physical access units too? Because those would have like stairs and like just a greater barrier to entry than the bungalows would. That do you know if they're 100% physical access layouts, or they're just the bungalows?
That's our understanding, that they're all accessible units, and I haven't been in the building, but when you're in an apartment building that is accessible, there would be elevators in there. So our understanding is that it's 100% a partnership between 1010 St. Clair, and all the units are physically accessible.
Okay. Can I make a recommendation? I don't know if this is the right time to do it, but I do agree that if they're all physical like that, there should be an adjustment on the cap. So I would bump the cap to 5%. I'd put a 25%, a 0.25% on my cap of 4.25 to go to a 5 cap.
Okay. Go carry on, please. Yeah.
So that would bump it to 7 million, or sorry, that would drop it to 7,082,000 rounded. That's not because it's a social housing, it's because of the physical difference and the money that would need to be spent to bring it to more typical open market. So I think that is fair move there. So I'm recommending 7,082,000, and I don't have any more questions for Farah. Thank you.
Ms. Cates, would you accept that recommendation?
So it's the first time I'm hearing of the value, so I wouldn't have any direction from the owner on that. So I think I would, while I appreciate the offer, I think I would just have to leave it with the board on that, just because I don't have any approval.
Okay. Mr. Whitbread, do you have any questions for the applicant
Just one.
and for the assessor on his recommendation?
Yeah, one point of clarification, just because it centers on his recommendation. Are you certain, Ms. Cates, that all of these units are accessible and have been modified as we saw in the photos? I didn't see that anywhere in the documentation, that they were all accessibility suites. You're certain of that?
Yeah, that's our understanding. So I haven't been to the suites to view them. But that's our understanding in talking with Manitoba Housing, that they're all accessible units.
Okay. Yeah, I know it says they're all geared toward low to medium income households. I'm just looking at the wording here. Physical access. Yeah, okay. I have no further questions on the issue.
Ms. Knight, any questions on
Just what's the square footage of that suite that's in the picture?
I wouldn't be sure.
Okay. All right, that's good. Thank you.
So you mentioned, Ms. Cates, that you weren't sure if it had elevators or not.
Well,
Did you mention that?
Well, I hadn't been in it, so hadn't seen it with my own eyes, but since the property is an accessible development, it would have to have elevators.
Just looking at the building itself, if it had an elevator, wouldn't it have what we call, I guess, an elevator overrun that would show in the roof structure?
I wouldn't be sure of that.
Okay.
So I apologize, I can't comment on that.
You know what I'm referring to, though, correct?
Mm-hmm.
I have no
Mr. Chair,
further. Sorry, who was speaking?
Richard here.
Okay, go ahead, Richard.
Just a comment on that. I'm living in a building that was built approximately the same time, and I'm looking out at two of the buildings that I'm living in here. Neither one of them have the roof overrun that you're talking about. I couldn't tell looking at them, just as we can't with this building, whether there's an elevator or not. But I'm not giving evidence here. I'm just surmising based on my own knowledge as a wheelchair user that it doesn't necessarily have to have a roof overrun that you're talking about.
Okay. Yeah, just one more thing on the elevator issue, Ms. Cates. If all of these suites were for disabled people, would you agree that it would require an elevator?
Yeah, it definitely would.
Okay. I have no further questions then on either the applicant's presentation or Mr. Baraka's recommendation. Anything in summation, Mr. Barakas?
I don't. My new rec is like 191 a unit, so we're a good amount below.
191.
191,407 a unit. That's it. Thank you.
Anything in summation, Ms. Cates?
I'm good as well, thank you.
Okay, that will conclude this property on 3389 Pembina Highway. We will now move on to the next property, which is 857 Wilkes Avenue. And this is an application for revision of the assessed value and for classification. Is that correct, Ms. Cates?
It could be. This appeal was filed out of our Calgary office, so I hadn't seen the application itself, but we're just going to be requesting a confirmation at this time.
Okay. So there's a preliminary issue that you wanted to bring up then on this property, either party?
Yeah, I can help out. I've worked through this one with Chris from Calgary. So we've worked out a value. I've issued supplementary assessment notice. Is still in data services, getting through the year-end backlog, but like we have an understanding on the agreement. So whatever is in place here will be overridden. So we're just requesting confirmation because there's a new value that's overriding this one.
Okay, both sides are requesting confirmation, so I'm just going to go through the panel members for questions and on anything here. So, Mr. Whitbread, do you have any questions for the assessor?
Mr. Chair, I wonder if we should get Mr. Brockes to read the
Yes,
Yeah,
read it in,
for the
yes,
record,
yes.
And then
Yeah,
go
read it
to
in, yeah.
questions? Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, makes sense. So file number 25-293, roll number 12097806585 Wilkes Avenue. Assessed value 37,512,000, requesting confirmation. There's an approved supplementary assessment notice that is currently a data services being processed, so this value will be overridden. Thank you.
okay, Ms. Cates, do you have any questions on that?
I have no questions on it.
No, Ms. Cates.
I have no questions. Thank you.
Mr. Whitbread, any questions?
No,
Ms. Knight, any?
No, sir.
And I have no questions. Ms. Cates, you are requesting.
Mr. Chair, we can't hear you.
We're losing you, yeah.
You're pointed away from your microphone, I believe.
Ms.
Yeah.
Cates, you are requesting confirmation, correct?
That's correct. Thank you.
Any questions, Ms. Knight?
No, sir.
Mr. Whitbread, any questions?
I have none, thanks.
Yeah, I have no questions. Anything in summation, Mr. Bragas?
No, thank you.
Ms. Cates, anything in summation?
No, I'm good as well. Thank you.
All right, that will 8 Wilkes Avenue. And we have heard all of the items scheduled and this hearing is now adjourned.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
You too.
Thank you.